the writing now. This writing kind will take from grammar for writing book, will not take it from the literature. Okay, grammar for writing book will take on page here is it, page 61. Okay, page 61.
Yes.
Writing about literature, but I will change a little bit because here he wants you to analyze poetry, but I don't want you to stick to analyzing poetry only. I want you to analyze any kind of writing, any kind of any selection of literature, a novel, a short story, anything. Okay, but this is the main kind of writings. Okay, I'll share with you my PowerPoint. Here, the literary analysis. We will take literary analysis. Literary analysis is how to analyze literature. Okay, here I didn't write it. Literary. Where is it? The literary. Can you see my PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay. Literary analysis.
Teacher, which page?
It's on page 61.
Okay, miss.
I arranged it in this slide, and if you want to study, please study from these slides because it's easier. Literary analysis is a definition. What is a literary analysis? What is it? Jumana, are you here? Jana? Jumana. Read Jumana.
From the PowerPoint.
Yes.
Literary analysis essay definition. A literary analysis essay is a form of opinion essay in which students share their opinion about the theme and other literary elements. These views and opinions are then supported with evidence from the relevant work.
So you will tell me your opinion, but you will not write for me. My opinion is. You will not write for me. I think is. Don't mention yourself. How I know it's your opinion? Because it's your essay. Continue.
The literary piece of writing can be a short story, poem, or any other fictional or non-fictional work. It also has the same sections as different essay types, but it may not have a thesis statement, especially if it is just an informative essay type. The method to analyze literary work can differ depending upon the type of work being analyzed. It is essential to break down the work into various components to understand and study better. The fundamental characteristics that make a literary analysis essay different from other essays are: a literary analysis essay.
Literary, dear.
Literary analysis essay includes a narrative. It is interpretive. It doesn't have an arguable
thesis.
It
is a report. What the most important part? It is not an arguable thesis. يعني you do not write an argumentative essay. So you do not write an opinion and you have to mention the opposing opinion. No, this is your own opinion. You are free to write it and you do not wait to defend others' opinions. Okay? Thank you, Jumana. Jana.
Miss?
Yes.
Yes?
Miss, before she starts, must they mention that it includes a narrative? It means
yes,
that I can mention
yeah, no. I will tell you later. What does it mean? Okay? Don't forget to ask me and I'll tell you. Okay?
Okay.
Yes. Jana.
Jana? Yes. The method used to analyze literary work can differ depending upon the type of work being analyzed. It is essential to break down the work into various components to understand and study better. The fundamental characteristics that make a literary analysis essay different from other essays are: a literary analysis
It is the same. It is the same what we read. Literary analysis is say includes a narrative. It's interpretive. No, let's read this because I repeated the same sentences. Read this. What is the purpose of a literary analysis essay? Why do we write it? Why do we write literary analysis? Read يا جنى.
A literary analysis essay helps the
Analysis,
student.
yeah, Jana, analysis, yes.
Okay. Analysis essay helps the students in finding and explaining the essential elements of fiction. It aims at presenting the details and all-sided analysis of a specific piece of literature work. In this essay, the writer considers the content, language effect on the audience, and the writing style in literature. As the literature major, it is mandatory to learn literary elements and analyze them as per your understanding.
There's 1 minute and I will come. I'm back, girls, sorry. So what were we saying? We were saying that what was the purpose for the literary analysis essay? What do we write it and generate it? We write literary analysis. Why? When you, as a student, try to find and explain what you like and what you didn't like in a novel or in a poem or in a nonfiction or article, it helps you to avoid these mistakes later. Okay? Okay?
Yes.
So you understand more when you criticize a work or when you analyze a work, not criticize, you understand the elements of this work. So when you write, because we agree that the main reason for you to learn is to write. You learn everything in order to write. So when you write, you can write it better. Okay, so the writer here consider the content. You'll take the content, the language, the effect on the audience, and the writing style. When you analyze all of these, it helps you to add these rules or add these elements in your writing, which will make you a better writer. Okay, so it is mandatory to learn literary elements and analyze them as per your understanding. You have to understand in order to analyze. Thank you, Jana. بلقيس. بلقيس. بيان. بثينة.
Yes, miss.
Yes, dear. Continue reading, dear, from this current line. Elements of literature. What are the elements of literature? The teacher, why would we study elements of literature when we take writing? Because you will analyze those elements. So you have to understand them in order to analyze them. Read, Buthaina.
Elements of literature are the ideas or devices that make up a story. In other words, they are elements that are used to develop the story. In literary analyzing essay explaining these elements in essential, and without them, that literary essay is complete. Some literature elements are more prominent, while others do not have any significant role in the chosen literary work of such indicant.
So the elements of literature, the ideas or devices that make up a story. This, how can you form a story through these elements of literature? So the elements are used to develop the story. In an analysis essay, you have to explain these elements. Okay? Without you explain these elements, your literary analysis essay is not complete. Number one, which is the very important part in a story, okay? Which when we were discussing yesterday, the mood, the voice, all of these affect what the plot, the dialogue, the monologue, they affect the plot. So what is the plot? Okay, let me see who is here. Dalia?
Yes.
Dalia? Yes, read it, Dalia.
The plot is one of the most significant elements of the
Literary essay.
provides insight into how the story unfolds and discusses the pattern of events that eventually make up a story. Sometimes the author used a non-linear plot. They include the flashbacks of or future events to make the story more
Captivating.
You have to pay attention to this point while writing a literary analysis.
Yes, analysis essay. So the plot is how the story is going on in this. What if the story depends on flashbacks? So you have to mention the flashbacks in your essay. You have to mention the plot of the story, or the author depends on using flashbacks in order to remind the reader, or to tell the reader what were the major reasons behind the action or the response of the characters. So you have to mention related to the plot, details related to the plot. So you have to mention them in your essay. The plot is the arrangement of events in the essay. Does he goes chronologically, or he takes flashbacks, or it is in the future? The point of view. Dana Shaheen?
Yes, miss.
Read it.
Having a point of view is essential in the work of literature. It communicates to the readers who are narrating the story. This section attempts to explain why the author has selected a particular perspective.
How many points of view do we have in literature, Dana? Point of view, narrator's point of view. We have the first, second, and third. What is the first person point of view? Dana?
Yes, miss.
Yes, Dana. What is the first person point of view?
It's I.
I. When a person tells a story from his perspective, he uses I.
And
What
me.
else he uses?
Me.
Yes. So this is a first person point of view when he writes a narrative. A narrative, when he is the narrator, a narrative is a story that has happened to him. Okay. Why would you have to analyze the point of view? Why? Because it tells the reader who is narrating the story, and tells the reader if he knows everything about all the feelings of other characters or not. So if we are using the third person point of view, Dana Wael. Thank you, Dana Shaheen. Dana Wael.
Yes, miss.
What is the third person point of view in literature?
It's when the author is mentioning the characters.
Yes, when he says he and she, right? And it's divided, the narrative points of view, third person points of view is divided into two parts, omniscient and limited. When it is it omniscient and when it is limited? Omniscient? Hello, girls.
Yes.
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 Omniscient is what?
Is when the narrator.
They know everything.
Yes, when the narrator knows everything about all the characters. Limited when the narrator knows only
But
one thing about the character. Yeah. Then setting. Dana وائل, read yes, Dana.
Okay. The setting highlights the specific period and the region in which the characters are moving and performing. Just like characters, settings are also essential to analyze. As the author expresses his or her opinion on a particular character, what they think about places can also be provocative.
Yes, so the setting is very important to be mentioned. Why? What is the setting, yeah, Dana? Or wait, not Dana. Dana answered Durra.
Yes, miss.
What is the setting, yeah, Durra?
The setting is where the story is taking place.
Yes, where and when. Why would it be important to mention where and when? Or analyze the where and when?
Because maybe like the story happened years ago, so the author should like mention some historical events or stuff that happened at that time. For
Yes,
example,
so yes, the author expresses his or her opinion on a particular character. Yes,
yes.
and about the place and about the timing too. Okay. Dana, you read this slide, right?
Yes.
Thank you, Dana. Dareen,
Yes, miss.
characters.
Characters are a backbone of any piece of literature, and no story is complete without them. While writing the literary essay, you need to concentrate on how the characters develop and how they are portrayed. It must, in most of the literary works, there are three types of characters:
protagonist,
hero,
antagonist,
villain or the bad guy, a catalyst, an important character who is not the protagonist or
antagonist. So again, girls, he said to me, you have to analyze the plot, point of view. You have to mention the point of view. What was the mention point? The narrator has told the story from which point of view, the setting, when and where, and the characters. You have to mention development of the character. Was it a dynamic character or a static character? Okay. The characters are usually divided into protagonists. Protagonist is the hero. Protagonist is the hero of the story, like Superman. Antagonist is the bad guy, the villain, like the villain or the bad guy against Superman. I don't remember his name. And the catalyst is an important character in the story. Maybe the protagonist, the girlfriend, or maybe the protagonist, a friend. Okay, an important character, his father. Okay, continue, Dareen, the last line.
Just stating what the characters are doing will be of no use. You have to think beyond and try to explain why the characters are the way they are.
So just telling what they do in the story is not what we want. We don't want to know what happened in the story. And this is very important, girls. We don't want to know what did this character do. We don't want to know what did he do in the story. He broke his girlfriend's heart. He conquered the city. No. We don't want what did he do. We want to know how was the character presented to you. So the characterization of the character were real or not. The development of his personality was real or not. So think beyond the action of the character. Think why he acted like this, and is this realistic or not? It's called the credibility of the character. Credibility of the character, it means when I read a book, I believe this character can act this way. And no, I believe this character cannot act this way. Okay? This is credibility. You believe the character or not. Thank you, Dareen. Durra, imagery that we discussed yesterday.
Imagery. The imagery is used as a symbol, and many of the story's main elements are hidden in them. Therefore, it is an essential aspect of literary work. In it, the author attempts to draw a picture in the reader's mind. In the literary analysis essay, talk about the impact of the use of imagery on the story. Also consider the work of literature development of the story and its effect on the
Yes, so
characters.
after we analyze the plot, we analyze the point of view for the author, for the narrator, we analyze the setting, we analyze the characters, we analyze how did the author used the imagery in his writing. And that's why we took the imagery in the literature the day before yesterday, okay? And the 7 kinds of imagery, how did he use them in his fiction, novel or non-fiction story, or in a poetry, in a poem, sorry. So how did he use them? This is to not to tell me what is a visual imagery, no, how he used the visual imagery, how he used the organic imagery. Then the symbolism. Symbolism, Fatima?
Yes, Miss.
Yes.
Symbolism. Symbolism is another aspect of literature. It is not explained in words, but is hidden in the text and explained through different means. In simple words, it is used when an object is meant to represent an idea more significant than the object itself.
Yes, symbolism is another aspect of literature. When I use like a dove resembles peace, like this sign resembles also peace. Symbolism is when a small thing refers to another thing. When I have a sword and a palm, it resembles Saudi Arabia. Okay? When I see 2 doves and behind it this spider net, it reminds me or resembles or symbolism to the hijrah for Prophet Muhammad. Right, girls? So symbolism is what is behind this. Remember when we were in grade 9 and we took scarlet ibis, this bird that fell on the ground, that fell and died, he symbolized what? Symbolized the boy, the baby boy, that he was handicapped. So it is also a literary device that should be analyzed in the essay. And then the irony. Irony, Ghada.
The irony is one of the most impactful elements that leave an impression on the reader's memory. It is opposite to the expectations or even to the desires of some specific characters and readers.
Remember verbal irony, when I say something I don't mean, situational irony, when something happens I don't expect, and the dramatic irony, when irony and something happens in the as a reader I know what will happen, but another character in the story doesn't know. So also irony should be analyzed. Again, we analyze the plot. Why there are too many elements, teacher? Because these are the elements of literature. These are the basic elements of literature. We will analyze the plot, point of view, setting, characters, imagery, here, symbolism, irony, foreshadowing. What is foreshadowing? Foreshadowing is very important, especially in the suspenseful novels and stories. Okay, let me see who is after that. Jana, Jana read. Joanna. Joanna. Jude. Joanna, yes. This is your 3rd day. You don't reply me. You didn't reply me before also. Jude, yes, Jude. Read you, Jude.
The authors often try to hint at the future or the expected events through their descriptions. It is known as the foreshadowing. The writer provides hints to the readers about what they can expect from the character or the story's plot. Impress your teacher by presenting your point of view and analysis.
Yes, the authors try to hint the future, tells you what is going to happen. Why? To create excitement and suspenseful mood by foreshadowing. Okay? Foreshadowing is to give you hints about what, and then came the ominous silence. So you know that is something is going to happen. Okay, he gives you hints about what is going to happen. Okay, again, these are elements of literature, and they are the basic elements of the literature, and they are very important. Plot, point of view, setting, characters, imagery, symbolism, for irony, and foreshadowing. Okay, I want you today to read them, know them very well, okay? Because they will help you a lot in your literary analysis.
Miss,
Yes,
can I ask you a question?
of course.
Miss, in literary analysis, do we write it as an essay in 3 bodies in the conclusion?
Yes, yes. It is an essay.
How will I divide the 3 bodies?
I will tell you later. We just take the. I tell you everything. Okay. But you just move a step by step.
Thank you.
Welcome, dear. Okay, Kadra.
Yes.
Yes, read ya, Kadra.
How to write a literary analysis essay. Writing a literary analysis essay requires a writer to follow a proper process. The process includes planning as well as writing. If the planning of the essay is done correctly, the writing process gets easier and more effective. To write your literary analysis essay successfully, follow the steps provided below.
So, which we can call the plan, the outline of the essay. I should plan well. What will I write? What will I talk about? Okay? So, in order to analyze literary selection or a literary writing novel, anything, I have to read thoroughly. I had to read it very well. In order to analyze it, I have to read it very well. Okay? Thank you, Kadra. Lana Meher.
Yes, Miss.
Yes, read.
Okay. The first step in the writing process of the literary analysis is thoroughly read the chosen text. It's important to analyze and understand every little detail of the original text to effectively draft your literary essay. Carefully read and understand the author's view and the message he or she is providing through writing. A simple trick to analyzing the text is to answer the questions provided below. Which parts of the content are substantial? Which literary devices were used by the author? Why the author chose those literary devices? How the characters developed in the content? Identify every detail, including the ideas, plot, characters, settings, etc., and analyze them attentively.
So, which parts of the contents are substantial? Which literary devices were used by the author? The author used foreshadowing or flashbacks. He used flashback because I told you an example about foreshadowing. He used flashbacks. Why did he use flashbacks? He used flashbacks to remind the reader or to tell the reader about the reasons behind these actions and to create more suspenseful mood in the story. Why the author chose this literary device? Because flashbacks clarifies the plot, clarifies or explains the motivation for the character, why he acted this way, how the characters developed in the content. If I have a protagonist, he has developed into a good one at the end, or the antagonist has been developed into a good person at the end. So we would mention that the antagonist, and I mention who is the antagonist, has developed at the end of the story. Okay, transferred, so it is a dynamic character. Identify every detail. So I try to mention the plot, the characters. Okay, so the plot was fast, exciting, or boring, and full of unnecessary details. Characters were alive. On the other hand, I can mention that the characters of this literary device of this literary work were so poor. The author failed in explaining or giving a life to the characters. So we felt like the characters, there was a feeling that the characters are dead. They were not alive. The setting, if it's a horror story, setting affects the story a lot. If it was a good choice of the author to choose the setting of Brooklyn, for example, and at night to intensify the action or intensify the incident. This is how we write it. Okay, girls, are you with me?
Yes.
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 And then after I read it, after I read thoroughly, I answered all of these questions, I can choose a topic. So once you understood the text, come up with a topic for your literary analysis essay. Choose an interesting title and start. Literary analysis essays. Literary analysis topics. I don't want to start in this. We'll start in this next time. Because here we will start writing. I want to stop at how do we form our minds, how we arrange the ideas. Okay? So I only want to stop here. Again, what we took today, we took the elements of literature that we take in any literature class, but we took it today in writing class because our writing is to analyze the literary work, to analyze literature. So in order to analyze literature, I should be aware of the elements of literature: plot, settings, characters, foreshadowing, symbolism, imagery. What else? I forgot what?
Irony.
Irony. Yes, characters, and characters are a very important element to be analyzed. Are you with me?
Yes.
Okay, this is for today's writing, and next period we will take how to start writing, because here I read the topic, I read the story, I answered all my questions. Yes, I will analyze this and this and this. I will analyze how did he use the symbolism. I will analyze how he used foreshadowing. How did he use flashbacks? I will analyze all of this and why he used this and how did it affect the story. And then I start writing. Okay?
Okay.
Yes.
Miss, do we need to
yes.
memorize them or only understand them?
You have to know them. We don't memorize. You have to know them. Sarah asked me a question about I can use a narrative in literary analysis. Look, Sarah, using I in essays, it is not 100% wrong. Because if you search the net, you will find essays we mentioned in that I. But this is not 100% right in the same way. Because here, you are not formal. In order to learn how to write well, you stick to the rules and then break the rules. You stick to the rules and then break the rules. But writing formally helps you to write informally. But if you start writing informally, you will never learn to write formally.
Yeah.
That's it. So that's why I ask you never mention yourself. By never mentioning yourself, you are forced to change the sentence in order not to say, I think the characters were very boring. Characters are very boring. I didn't like. You can say what in other sentence. The author, look how it would be changed and powerful in your essay. The author failed in giving life to the characters. Failed in giving excitement to the reader. One thing that could be taken on the author, that he couldn't engage the reader in the sequence of the plot. And instead of saying I couldn't be excited to the. See how it is formal and how it is informal. Informal is not wrong, but you have to learn how to write formally in order to not write informal. Informal is easy. Okay? Formal is hard. You got me?
Yes, yes.
Yes, this is what I want you to know. Okay, girls. See you tomorrow. Tomorrow we have the grammar, right?
Yes.
See you then.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, miss.
Bye.